Hi, I'm Dana. My favorite hobbies are struggling with my gloves, messing up the pressure on the printing press, and struggling with my gloves. Also, I print sometimes. Printmaking! A quick history lesson for those of you who have never poked an art history class with a 10-foot pole. Printmaking can be traced back to the development of relief printing in the mid-7th century. The process widened access to information, literacy, opened new avenues for commerce, and is credited with democratizing authorship. I'm sure I have at least one art history professor wondering why I didn't go more in depth with the history, but hey, I'm a studio art major and not an art history major, and I've run out of screen time to ramble. This particular project was done using intaglio printing, which is the opposite of relief printing. In intaglio, ink is applied to areas removed from the printing plate, rather than raised surfaces. So with all that out of the way, welcome to Emergent, a project about growth and fucking up. Can I swear on this? It's too late now. Printmaking largely revolves around paper. Like, a lot of paper, and a lot of different kinds of paper. I don't want to talk about all the paper. You can thank the folks who started writing on paper around 105 CE in China for that. But nearly every print project, or at the very least, this print project, starts with prepping a lot of paper. That's so many P's. Next, since this is intaglio printing, I have to give my paper a nice relaxing soak in a container of water. That way the ink can properly adhere to the paper in a cool, artsy way that is very desirable and will give me an A on this project. Ink time! First, I have to make sure my intaglio ink is the proper consistency. You know how shampoo is or should be? Yeah, I want it like that. A good way to tell is to pull up a little gloop, drop? Yeah, a gloop of ink. If it drips down about half an inch and hangs there, I have the consistency I need. Jesus, that was way too much magnesium powder. Magnesium powder, by the way, is used to thicken the ink. If I wanted thinner ink, I would use linseed oil. Perfect consistency! Now, I'll scrape the ink onto the plate using a small piece of mat board. I'm looking to coat the plate with the ink and then use the mat board to scrape what I can into the grooves of my design. Savvy printers may notice that I've forgotten a minorly important element to this process. No, it's not the fact that the camera is set up perfectly in such a way that my arm covers the plate and you get a lovely view of my ink-stained elbow. I've forgotten to put down some scrap paper to prevent my workspace from getting all messy and inky. Though that's kind of a losing battle, actually. Maybe I'll realize soon. Or maybe I'll just start the process of using the cheesecloth to push the rest of the ink into the grooves of the image. That works too. Oh cool, so I did figure that out at least. Now, since this particular brand of intaglio ink has a nasty habit of leaving a fine sheen of grease across the surface of my plate, I'm using a scrap piece of paper to wipe off the grease. I also use little dabs of magnesium powder to help clear up the grease film. But wait! There's more! I've forgotten another important thing. I'm being way too timid here with cleaning my plate. Can you see how I'm not touching the actual image at all? Yeah, that'll come back to bite me in the ass later. If you don't care about spoilers, just flip to the Emergent fledgling section of the book and try and guess which of the bad prints didn't have the center cleaned properly. I'll give you best 2 out of 3. There's only 3 prints in the edition. Next, before I print, I'll want to set up some rough guidelines for where I want to place my plate and my printing paper, such that I'm not printing at a 45-degree angle. That's called a failing grade, kids. For the people who can actually do math pretty well, this isn't actually a necessary step, but I failed geometry in the 7th grade, and me and numbers haven't really gotten along since. Okay, printing time! First time's the charm! I've done all this work, all this effort, and surely my first print will come out looking absolutely okay, maybe not. Well, fuck. Time to print again! Yay! And I ran it through the printing press twice because I messed up the press pressure. The press pressure.
Got it the first time, though.
Back to the drawing board? Or maybe it's a printing board. A mat board? A cutting board? The nice thing about these mistakes, though, is that I'm learning through the entire process. Didn't clean the plate well enough on the first pull? Well, now I'll be sure to clean the surface perfectly. Press pressure incorrect on the second pull? Well, now that I know that, I can adjust it and make sure to get the correct pressure for the rest of my prints. Each of my mistakes becomes something I can perfect in my next attempt until finally I get the perfect pull that I need. And then I need to replicate it at least 2 more times to get an addition of 3, but I think you've had enough of fledgling, or at least I have, so it's time for adult. And look! Remember all those previous mistakes I made? I'm avoiding all of those now. I've got my scrap paper down, the camera's no longer a lovely view of my elbow, and I'm no longer being timid as I wipe off the grease and ink from the plate. Too many people, in the age of Instagram and picture-perfect final product perfectly lit commodified capitalism something or other artwork are fooled into thinking that art is a perfect process. It's not. But that's part of the joy of it. Art is about making mistakes, looking those mistakes in the eye, and going, guess I won't do that again, and then you do. You make more mistakes, and you keep learning. I hope that when you view Emergent, you not only appreciate the additions of 3 that made the final cut, but the mistakes and the bad prints I had to make before I could pull those perfect prints. Art and printmaking, when it comes down to it, are just ink smudges on a paper that we deem look pretty, and that we give meaning to, and sometimes we even do it on purpose.